History remembers him as a hero, but behind the crown of Alexander the Great lies a trail of blood, destruction, and war crimes the textbooks conveniently forgot. He did not advance as a mere man, but as a tempest, sweeping through the ancient world with ferocious intent, upending kingdoms and inscribing a trail of fire across the face of history. Alexander III of Macedon, eternally remembered as Alexander the Great, was not simply a military leader. From mass executions and the destruction of entire cities to the crucifixion of survivors and the enslavement of tens of thousands, Alexander's campaign wasn't just about conquest, it was about calculated terror. In this video, we're peeling back the golden armor and exposing the brutal war crimes that history tried to whitewash. These aren't myths. These are the grim facts behind the legend. He was the living embodiment of ambition unbound, a mythic figure whose hunger for conquest reshaped the ancient world. His campaigns shattered borders and empires, but beneath the brilliance of his battlefield mastery lies a legacy drowned in blood, ravaged cities, and irreparable cultural loss. For when mortals aspire to godhood, compassion often becomes the first casualty. What followed in Alexander's wake was not unity nor peace, but a spectacle of terror and devastation. His conquests were not merely military achievements. They were statements, designed to inspire awe, yes, but also submission through sheer, unrelenting brutality. In 335 BCE, the ancient city of Thebes, one of Greece's most prestigious and storied city-states, made the fatal mistake of rising against Macedonian hegemony. Alexander, barely in his early 20s, responded not with negotiation, but with the fury of a man determined to silence dissent forever. He encircled Thebes with terrifying speed, launching an unforgiving siege. The famed walls of Thebes, long considered impregnable, were battered by siege engines and crushed beneath disciplined infantry assaults. The fall of the city was not a drawn-out war, but a calculated act of annihilation. Diodorus Siculus recounts that Alexander razed Thebes almost entirely. Only its temples and the house of the poet Pindar were spared. Everything else, homes, monuments, public spaces, was obliterated. Nearly 30,000 Thebans were killed or sold into slavery. Families were extinguished, cultural heritage erased. This was not strategy, it was spectacle. A chilling message sent to the rest of the Hellenic world. Rebellion would not just be crushed, it would be erased. Thebes became a memory drenched in blood, a lesson carved into the psyche of every Greek city-state. The siege of Tyre in 332 BCE further showcased Alexander's brutal resolve. A jewel of the Phoenician world, Tyre was a well-fortified island city surrounded by the Mediterranean Sea and protected by immense walls. Confident in their defenses, the Tyrians refused to yield. Alexander, refusing to bypass resistance, chose instead to wage one of the longest and most difficult sieges in ancient history. Over the course of 7 grueling months, his forces built a massive causeway stretching from the mainland to the island, all while enduring fierce naval attacks and counteroffensives. When Tyre finally fell, Alexander's vengeance was biblical. According to Quintus Curius Rufus, some 6,000 Tyrians were slain during the final assault. But that was not the end. In a grotesque act of calculated cruelty, 2,000 surviving defenders were crucified along the city's shores, their bodies left to rot under the sun. A macabre warning to all who might dare to stand in his path. An additional 30,000 men, women, and children were sold into slavery. Tyre's pride and power were extinguished, not through necessity, but through deliberate terror. In 325 BCE, Alexander faced a challenge not from an enemy army, but from the ruthless landscape of the Gedrosian desert. After his campaigns in India, he rejected the safer, well-established northern route and chose instead to cross this deadly wasteland stretching through present-day southern Iran and Pakistan. The motive, according to Arrian and other ancient sources, was pride. Alexander wanted to outdo the legendary Cyrus the Great, who had once failed to cross the same expanse. The result was a catastrophe of epic proportions. His army, already worn from years of campaigning, was decimated. Starvation and dehydration took their toll. The scorching sun beat down by day, while sandstorms buried men and animals alike by night. Water sources were few and often contaminated. thousands perished, not in the glory of battle, but in a desert of Alexander's own choosing. This was not a tactical move, it was a tragedy born of arrogance. The Gedrosian March stands as one of antiquity's most needless and devastating military decisions, a sobering testament to how ambition can eclipse responsibility. That same pattern of retribution repeated itself in Gaza, where in 332 BCE, the city's Persian-appointed governor Batis refused to surrender. Gaza, a strategic nexus between Egypt and Persia, stood as a symbol of resistance. Alexander's siege lasted 2 months, during which his forces suffered considerable casualties. When the city was finally breached, vengeance descended with terrifying swiftness. Batis was captured alive, and Alexander, evoking Homeric imagery, ordered him to be tied to a chariot and dragged around the city walls, mimicking Achilles' desecration of Hector in the Iliad. But the punishment did not stop with one man. Gaza's entire population, tens of thousands strong, was enslaved. Homes were looted, families torn apart, and the city transformed from a commercial hub into a monument of subjugation. As with Thebes and Tyre, the destruction of Gaza was not mere warfare, it was propaganda executed in blood. Perhaps the most devastating and symbolic act of Alexander's entire campaign came in 330 BCE with the burning of Persepolis, the ceremonial capital of the Persian Empire. This city was a marvel of architecture and culture. Its halls, palaces, and temples represented centuries of Persian power and sophistication. Initially, Alexander spared the structures, allowing his troops to loot but not destroy. That restraint, however, proved fleeting. During a drunken feast, possibly spurred on by the courtesan Thebes, Alexander ordered the palace of Xerxes to be set ablaze. Whether the act was born of vengeance for the Persian sack of Athens or a moment of wine-fueled arrogance, the consequences were irreversible. The fire raged through Persepolis, destroying vast libraries, temples, and artistic treasures. A cultural beacon was extinguished in a single night. This was not just arson, it was cultural erasure. The deliberate incineration of Persepolis was a message. The old empire had fallen, and its legacy would be buried beneath the ambitions of a new god-king. Though later accounts claim Alexander regretted the destruction, the damage had been done. It remains one of the greatest losses of cultural heritage in ancient history. And yet, despite the cruelty and the carnage, history often remembers Alexander with awe. His military genius, charisma, and ability to inspire unwavering loyalty among his men are uncontested. He accomplished what no Greek before him had dared imagine, uniting the fractured Greek world and dismantling the seemingly invincible Persian Empire. His conquests stretched from Macedonia to the edge of the Indian subcontinent, spreading Hellenistic culture across 3 continents. He founded over 20 cities, encouraged intermarriage between cultures, and laid the groundwork for centuries of cross-cultural exchange. The Hellenistic age that followed his death saw Greek ideas, art, language, and philosophy take root far beyond their original borders. In this, Alexander's vision, at least in part, transcended war. But glory is never without its shadows. Every military triumph left behind broken cities, enslaved populations, and scorched civilizations. Thebes, Tyre, Gaza, Persepolis. None fell because it was necessary. They fell because Alexander wanted them to. His power was not only enforced through arms, but through fear. His legacy was written not just in marble and myth, but in suffering and silence. The scale and strategy of his destruction suggest not randomness, but design. His cruelty was not a flaw. It was a feature of his imperial machine, a deliberate mechanism to ensure obedience, to forge an empire where defiance was synonymous with obliteration. His legacy is thus not only one of conquest, but of control through calculated devastation. Alexander's march across the ancient world was not merely a chronicle of victories, it was a saga of ambition without restraint. Each conquest was not just a military operation, it was an exhibition of dominance. His genius was undeniable, but so too was his ruthlessness. His dream of a unified world came at a staggering human cost. When Alexander died in Babylon in 323 BCE, just shy of his 33rd birthday, he left no clear successor. His vast empire fractured almost immediately, torn apart by his generals, known as the Diadochi, who descended into bloody wars over the pieces of his legacy. The unity he fought so fiercely to build unraveled within a generation, replaced by rival kingdoms and civil wars. The world he had conquered could not sustain the weight of his absence. So what are we to make of this towering figure? Was he a visionary who dreamed of a connected world, or a tyrant cloaked in the myths of greatness? Was his brilliance worth the cities he razed, the cultures he erased, the lives he sacrificed? Perhaps his legacy is best understood not as a tale of triumph or tragedy, but as both. He was a man who touched the divine and scorched the earth in the process. His name still echoes through time, not just as a conqueror, but as a warning. As Plutarch once wrote, "So great was his ambition, and so small the world he conquered." In the end, Alexander was neither wholly hero nor wholly villain. He was empire made flesh, a man whose dreams were as boundless as his destruction. And for all the cities he founded and all the legends he inspired, the world he left behind was one marked as much by ruin as by glory. Alexander's name may echo through the halls of history as the Great, but the shattered cities, silenced cultures, and mountains of innocent dead tell a different story. One of unrelenting ambition and unforgivable cruelty. It's time we remember not just the conqueror, but the cost. If you found this video eye-opening, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more untold history. Thanks for watching. Stay curious, stay questioning, and don't let history get away with rewriting itself.